From millionaire to Mendigo, how a black entrepreneur defied Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Ethan Morgan was a man who had it all, or so everyone believed. A tech genius turned billionaire. He built his empire from nothing, breaking barriers as a black entrepreneur in a world that didn't expect him to rise this high. Headlines screamed about how he outsmarted Elon Musk in the race for clean energy, and how he took down deals Trump envied before they even hit the market. But beneath the glossy surface of success, Ethan's life was a tightly controlled chessboard, until the impossible happened. One rainy night, in the middle of a noisy city, teeming with neon lights and endless traffic, Ethan caught sight of a boy, young, ragged, eyes sharp but lost. Something about him made Ethan's heart stop cold. The boy, no, man, had the same curve of his jaw, the stubborn set of his mouth. It was Kai, his son, the boy everyone believed dead for nearly a decade. Ethan's chest tightened, breaths shah, but nothing could prepare him for this moment. He wanted to run, wanted to tell himself this was a cruel joke. But Kai, scruffy, dirty, and moving through the crowd like a ghost, didn't disappear. He watched Ethan with cautious eyes that flickered between suspicion and desperate hope. The streets swallowed him. The city's air smelled of oil and despair. But there was something different about Kai. Ethan noticed a strange gleam in his son's eyes, like hidden fire. He moved differently, quick, light, almost electric. Questions buzzed through Ethan's mind like static. Where had Kai been all this time? How was he alive? Why was he out here instead of by his side, or in luxury like the world Ethan had built? Out loud, Ethan stammered, "Kai? Is that really you?" The son hesitated, fingers twitching, then he nodded. Not a word spoken, but his expression told Ethan 1,000 stories. Dangerous stories, dark secrets waiting to unravel like a bomb set to detonate. Suddenly, the crowd grew restless. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Is that Morgan's kid? Thought he drowned years ago. Look at him. Mendigo on our streets, and his old man runs the whole world." The cracks in Ethan's perfect life began to show, raw and jagged. Behind the scenes, Ethan's rivals smelled blood. A certain ruthless competitor, a shadow in the boardroom, wasted no time. He started digging, ready to rip open every skeleton Ethan tried to hide. Every fault, every failure, twisted into scandal. Public eyes turned sharp and hungry. Ethan's empire stood on a knife edge. But Kai had his own fire burning, one Ethan couldn't control. He spoke in odd, chilling fragments, touching on secret experiments, hidden abilities, and why he vanished so suddenly. Tales that twisted the story of the son who was lost. Their fragile, awkward conversations were shattered by the city's unforgiving noises. Sirens, shouts, the distant crack of a bottle. Both men, father and son, were caught between two worlds. The gleaming towers of privilege and the dark alleys of survival. Neither fit perfectly. Neither belonged fully. At night, Ethan stood on the edge of his penthouse, lights sprawling beneath him. His hands trembled. The past slammed into him like thunder. The choices he'd made, the secrets buried in silence, they weren't done with him. Kai's gaze haunted him, a constant reminder that some stories don't end quietly. And hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming up. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Ethan stared into Kai's eyes, feeling the weight of everything. The years lost, the silence, the guilt that wrapped around him like a thick fog. Each heartbeat pounded in his ears, echoing the chaos of the city around them. What had he done? The question spiraled in his mind, relentless. But before he could speak, a loud crash broke through the air. A car, sirens erupted in the distance, creating a cacophony of chaos. The crowd surged, people scattering, panic igniting the air. Ethan instinctively reached for Kai, pulling him closer. "Stay here!" Ethan shouted, but as Kai jerked away, a different fire lit within him. His body tensed, eyes flashing with something unearthly. He turned toward the wrecked car, a focused intensity set on his face. "Kai, what are you doing?" Ethan felt his heart race. The boy he had lost was suddenly so much more, and Ethan was terrified. And then Kai took off, moving like the wind, darting towards the wreck. Ethan followed instinctively, but the gap between them widened as he stumbled, the scene distorting around him. People yelled, cars honked, and the night pulsed with frenetic energy. As Kai approached the wreck, he reached out. A surge of electric blue light crackled between his hands, an aura that made the crowd gasp in unison. Ethan's breath caught. What was happening? He had seen tech, innovation, brilliance, but this was raw power, something his son could create. "Stop!" Ethan lunged, desperation clawing at his throat. But it was too late. The energy exploded outward in a flash, engulfing the car, wrapping it in radiant light. The air buzzed with a chilling hum, resonating deep within Ethan's bones. The world seemed to slow. When the light dimmed, the car stood undamaged, as though untouched. Ethan blinked, disbelief crashing over him. Whispers spread through the crowd like wildfire. What just happened? Is that real? Is that Morgan's son? Kai stood tall, his presence commanding the attention of everyone, his features sharp in the neon glow. He turned to Ethan, eyes fierce, no longer the boy who had vanished, but a force of nature, unrecognizable, dangerous. "You don't know what you're involved in, do you?" Neither do they. His voice was steady, yet it trembled with something deeper. Ethan's chest tightened. All those years, they thought Kai was gone. Was it a lie? Or was it worse? The crowd shifted, some stepping back in fear, others edging closer with fascination. Cameras flashed, and suddenly, the world beyond the chaos felt like a distant dream. A shout erupted from the back, drawing attention. A figure emerged from the shadows. A woman, Her face half hidden, but eyes piercing. She raised her voice, cutting through the noise. "Ethan Morgan, you have no idea what you have unleashed." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ethan froze, a cold wave washing over him. Who was she? What did she know? And how was she connected to Kai? As the reality of the moment crashed over him, a twisted knot of secrets began to unravel. This was more than just a father seeking redemption. This was a battle that stretched far beyond business deals and betrayals. It was about power, unknown threats, and a son who had been lost to a world filled with shadows. Each heartbeat echoed louder. Ethan felt the ground shift beneath him, the foundations of everything he built threatening to crumble. He stared at Kai, the boy who was now a mystery wrapped in danger, and the woman whose voice sent shivers down his spine. In that moment, everything he thought he knew unraveled, leaving a chilling question hanging in the air. What had he really lost? Ethan stared out at the city lights, each twinkle pulling at his heart, a reminder of everything he always wanted and everything he had lost. The night felt heavy, thick with unspoken words. Kai stood nearby, the tension between them crackling like electricity. For a moment, it seemed as if the world outside faded, leaving just the two of them. Until a piercing scream shattered the fragile silence. "Help! Please! Somebody!" Ethan spun, eyes wide. The sound darted through the alley, begging for attention. His instincts kicked in. Kai followed, a flicker of fear crossing his face. They both moved toward the chaos. People in the street shifted, some pulling out their phones, others ducking back as if their lives depended on it. In the dim light, a figure writhed on the ground. A young woman, hair wild, clothes torn, was surrounded by a crowd that simply stared. Some gasped, others pulled their cameras tighter, focused more on the spectacle than the suffering in front of them. "Get back!" a man shouted, trying to disperse the crowd, but his voice was lost to the thrumming panic. Ethan pushed forward, moving towards the girl, his heart racing. "Step aside." But before he could reach her, something on the ground caught his eye. A glint of metal! His chest tightened, a flood of recognition crashing over him. Heart racing, he bent down, and there it was, the medallion Kai used to wear as a child. "No! No!" Ethan's breath caught. It felt like being punched in the gut. How did this end up here? Questions erupted in his mind. Was it just a coincidence? What was happening? "Dad, wait!" Kai grabbed his arm, his grip fierce and terrified. "We need to be careful." Ethan turned to him. "What do you know?" But before Kai could answer, the girl on the ground gasped, her eyes flying open and locking onto Ethan. "Help me!" Her gaze was intense, pleading. "You're Ethan Morgan. You have to listen." "Who are you?" Ethan demanded, confusion clawing at him. She struggled to lift her head, eyes darting between father and son, panic rising. "I know him. I know everything." "Everything?" Ethan's heart raced. About what? Suddenly, the medallion sparked to life, illuminating the darkness. The crowd gasped, backing away as shadows seemed to swirl around Kai. Darkness, swirling like a storm. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. The medallion's glow seemed to pull Kai toward it, like a moth to the flame. His expression shifting from fear to something darker and more powerful. "What is happening?" Ethan shouted, his heart pounding. Years ago, the accident changed everything, the girdle whispered. Kai's not just your son, he's something else. Something that shouldn't exist. A collective murmur spread through the crowd, horrified disbelief flickering over their faces. Ethan's mind raced. Had he somehow created this? Did he unknowingly play a part in something unimaginable? Suddenly, all those years of silence about Kai's disappearance felt like a lie, a curtain in front of a much deeper truth. The medallion pulsed, and then darkness swallowed the light. "Dad!" Kai screamed, his voice drowned by chaos. And just like that, the ground beneath them trembled. Ethan's heart sank as dread crashed over him. With everything threatening to unravel, he sensed the truth barreling toward them, heavy and unstoppable. In that moment of madness, Ethan realized there were no easy answers, just a tangled web that would pull them deeper. What if everything he believed was built on a foundation of secrets? What if the world he fought for wanted to tear them apart instead? And just like that, the future shifted beneath his feet. Ethan's heart pounded as the darkness closed in. Shadows swirling ominously around him. He grabbed Kai's arm, trying to pull him back, but Kai stood frozen, entranced by the medallion's glow. The young woman struggled to rise, and an urgency gnawed in Ethan's gut. "What do you mean he's something else?" Her words echoed like a siren through the chaos. The crowd leaned in closer, whispers slicing through the air like knives. What is she talking about? Fear crashed against Ethan's ribs. He fought to stay calm, but every instinct urged him to shield Kai from whatever was unraveling. "Kai's been through things I can't explain," the young woman gasped, her voice shaking. "You don't know the truth about the accident or about your family." "Family?" Ethan's breath hitched, the word feeling like a dagger. "What do you mean?" He felt a tempest brewing, a storm of secrets about to break. Kai's eyes flickered with confusion and anger. "You're not making sense. Just tell us what you know." His voice quivered, igniting a spark in Ethan's gut. This had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding. Suddenly, the medallion cracked in Kai's hand, releasing a jolt of energy. It radiated into the air, illuminating the crowd's astonished faces. People recoiled, some stumbling back in panic, but the fear only made Kai's grip on the medallion tighter. Ethan could almost see the shadows dancing around him, alive and hungry. "Kai!" he shouted, desperate. But Kai wasn't listening anymore. His eyes locked onto the young woman. And the fire within him blazed. "What are you talking about? Who am I?" She steadied herself, drawing a deep breath, and when she spoke, it was with an urgency that cut through the confusion. The accident wasn't a coincidence. It was caused by people looking for people like you. You have abilities. You were never supposed to survive. A gasp traveled through the crowd, and silence wrapped around them like a shroud. Ethan's mind raced. Abilities? What were they saying? With a flicker of fury and fear, Kai lashed out. "What are you?" But before he could finish, a sudden crash jolted everyone. A car careened into the alley, tires screeching and metal twisting. Ethan's heart dropped. No, the figure driving it sprang out. A man, face twisted in rage, puntando sobre Ethan. You think you can hide forever? The tension thickened like fog. The man was a ghost from Ethan's past, a competidor she thought was safely buried in failure. "What are you doing here?" Ethan stammered. "I'm here to finish what you started." The man lunged forward, eyes blazing with unbridled fury. But just before he took another step, the medallion exploded. Light burst forth in a blinding flash, engulfing the area. Ethan shielded his eyes, heart racing. But when he opened them, everything had changed. Where Kai stood was a silhouette, now transformed. An ethereal being surrounded by crackling energy. The man who had charged forward froze, eyes wide with horror. "No! You weren't supposed to—" But it didn't matter. The moment crushed Ethan's thoughts. "Kai!" he screamed, but his voice was lost in the eruption of light. The crowd gasped, backing away in fear. Shadows twisted and turned. Ethan felt raw panic clawing at his throat. "What have you done?" The young woman shouted over the chaos. "He's become what they feared, everything we tried to hide." Ethan's world tilted. The people he thought he knew, the life he built, all of it hanging by a thread. Is this the truth behind Kai's disappearance? Were they all part of a game far bigger than him? And then a chilling realization sank in. If Kai had become something more, something dangerous, who would he really be in this rapidly darkening world? What had he awakened? As silence fell, an impossible question echoed in his mind. Could he save Kai from this fate? Or was it already too late? Ethan stood frozen at the edge of his penthouse, the sprawling city lights twinkling like stars made of glass. Kai's presence burned a hole in his heart, tugging at the heavy weight of the past. The air crackled with unspoken words, and Ethan felt like a dam about to burst. But before he could speak, an explosive sound shattered the moment. Boom! The noise echoed through the streets, rattling windows, sending people into panic. Ethan's heart raced, pounding like a drum in his ears. The explosion erupted from a block away, bright flames licking the night sky, casting eerie shadows across the faces below. What the hell was that? Kai's voice trembled, but his eyes danced with a strange excitement. It didn't match Ethan's rising panic. "Stay close," Ethan yelled, grabbing Kai's arm. But the boy pulled away, eyes wide, a dangerous gleam igniting them. "Kai, we need to go!" "Wait!" Kai shouted, determination hardening his features. He pointed down the street, where smoke and chaos burbled like a brewing storm. That was no accident. It was a signal. Signal? Confusion twisted Ethan's insides, but Kai was already moving, slipping through the crowded sidewalk like he belonged there. Ethan followed, heart thumping with fear, urgency kicking in. They dodged people fleeing the scene, confusion swirling around them. News cameras flashed like angry lightning, capturing the carnage, and Ethan felt the weight of the world shift on its axis. "Where are you going?" Kai turned suddenly, his expression intense. "You draw attention, Dad. You're a target because of your name. I'm the key to everything. I want you to know." "Know what?" The desperation in Ethan's voice vibrated in the air. They arrived at a corner where the crowd thinned, hidden away from the eyes of chaos. There, Kai pulled out a small device from his coat. A sleek, metallic box covered in wires and blinking lights. "What is that?" Ethan asked, feeling the pang of fear surge again. "This is why I disappeared," You thought I was dead, but I was part of something bigger. Something you couldn't handle, Kai said, his voice low and serious. I'm not who you think I am. Ethan's chest tightened. What are you talking about? Before Kai could respond, the crowd erupted again. Shouts echoed, and a series of rapid gunshots rang out. Panic engulfed the street. People screamed and scattered, the air thick with fear. Ethan grabbed Kai's wrist. We have to go, now! But as they turned, another explosion rocked the ground. A black SUV, tipped over. Fiery wreckage scattering debris everywhere. It landed just yards from them, sending Ethan and Kai tumbling back into a wall. Dazed, Ethan fought to comprehend it all. Then, in the chaos, he noticed something. A figure emerged from the smoke, limping but determined. One familiar enough to make his heart drop. The face was recognizably twisted in anger, but a piercing clarity set in. Ethan, it called, the voice familiar. You never should have come back. It hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. The fear, the confusion, the wheels of betrayal started spinning. Mom? He whispered, eyes wide and filled with disbelief. But before Kai could react, the world exploded around them. Adrenaline surged as everything blurred. They were caught in something much darker and much bigger than they ever imagined. And when the smoke cleared, nothing would be the same again. This was just the beginning of a storm that would tear their lives apart. Ethan stood frozen, the weight of Kai's gaze anchoring him in place. The night pulsed with city life, but all he could focus on was the boy who had slipped through his fingers. Kai's expression shifted, a flicker of something darker crossing his features. Then the crash came, a blaring siren slicing through the thick air, yanking Ethan back to the present. He barely registered the commotion until a figure shot past him, pushing through the crowd, panic in their eyes. A woman stumbled onto the street, clutching a baby. Before Ethan could react, she screamed, "They're coming! Get out!" The words hung in the air, charged, and the crowd turned chaotic. Faces twisted in confusion. People began to back away, fear spreading like wildfire. Ethan glanced at Kai, whose demeanor shifted, no longer a scared boy, but a fierce stranger. He stepped forward, eyes sharp. "Get inside!" Kai, shouté, urgencia, voz. Ethan se le animó, pero de instinto alcanzó su hijo. Kai, espera. Lo que está pasando, pero Kai ya estaba moviéndose. Ethan sigue. El corazón apunta. El mundo se vuelve. Brurea. Instinto le protege a su hijo. Pero no tenía idea de lo que corrían. Sus pensamientos se cacaban como olas. Se siniestra, frántica, como un trombetón. The ground trembled beneath them. Flashing lights pierced through the chaos. A black van appeared, skidding to a halt. The door flew open. Men in dark suits spilled out, faces unreadable. Ethan's heart plummeted. What was this? His world had always been controlled, calculated. This was chaos personified. "Go! Kai, we have to—" But he never finished. Kai turned, his expression fierce. "This isn't what you think. I can't go back. They're not here for you." The words hit Ethan like a punch, a hard, real punch. "Not here for me? What the hell does that mean?" With a swift movement, Kai pulled a device from his pocket, a small, sleek gadget. He pointed it at the approaching men, and in an instant, the air shimmered, a hazy barrier materializing around them. Ethan blinked, disbelief crashing over him. "What did you—" "Dad, I'm not the boy you remember!" Kai shouted, frustration thick in his voice. "You don't understand! They've been watching me! I've been training! It was for my safety!" The barrier pulsed, shimmering like a mirage, though the men still advanced. Ethan felt the ground shift beneath him. Was this part of Kai's secret? What had he been doing all these years? The men halted, eyes narrowing. "You know what you have to do, Kai! You can't hide forever!" Kai's face hardened. "Stop! You don't get to decide my life!" Panic rose in Ethan's chest. The world he'd fought to build felt like it was crumbling around him. The whispers of the onlookers surged, their expressions shifting from curiosity to shock to horror. Ethan staggered backward, bewildered. "What's happening, Kai?" Before Kai could answer, the ground erupted with light in a blinding flash. Chaos erupted around them, screams mingling with the sounds of the city. As splintered glass and debris flew through the air. A deafening roar swallowed Ethan's senses. As darkness threatened to engulf him, Ethan caught one last glimpse of Kai, eyes blazing with resolve, standing firm against the chaos that threatened to swallow them both. Then, everything changed. In that heartbeat, with the world crashing down around him, Ethan realized he knew nothing. Not about his son. Not about the battles fought in silence. And as the dark closed in, a single thought spiraled in his mind. What had he really lost all those years ago? Ethan's thoughts whirled like leaves caught in a storm. Unsettled and chaotic. All this time, he had chased success, climbed the highest peaks, but now the child he thought lost stood before him, with secrets, shadows, and danger simmering just beneath the surface. He wanted to reach out, to understand, but fear rooted him in place. "Kai, wait!" Ethan finally managed, desperation erupting from deep within. The boy, his son, hesitated, but didn't turn back. The city pulsated around them, but all he could focus on was the trembling in Kai's hands. "No, you don't understand," Kai whispered, glancing at the churning crowd. "It's not safe here." "Not safe?" Ethan's heart raced. "Kai, what happened? Where have you been all these years?" But just as he feared an answer, a loud crash split the noise, followed by a round of gasps. A group of men burst through the crowd, dressed in dark suits. "Ha ha! They were here for Ethan!" "Intruders!" a voice shouted. Panic rippled through the throng. People scattered like leaves in the wind. Ethan grabbed Kai's arm, pulling him closer. "We need to leave!" He could feel the adrenaline coursing through him, each rapid heartbeat echoing the urgency in the air. "No, it's too late," Kai declared, pulling back. His eyes glinted, sharper than before. "You have to listen to me!" Suddenly, his son's hands ignited in flames, bright, vivid, and terrifying. Feet shuffled back, voices raised in horror. Ethan watched, stunned, as the street illuminated with an otherworldly glow that twisted around Kai's fingers like living things. "Why can't you just trust me?" Kai yelled. But the fire danced dangerously close, casting shadows on their faces. igniting the despair and confusion in Ethan's heart. "He's a freak," someone yelled from the crowd, recoiling in fear. A low murmur of judgment surged among spectators. Their whispers cut through the night air, full of disbelief and condemnation. "Stop!" Ethan shouted, panic bubbling up inside him. "Kai, you can't do this! You're not a monster!" "I'm not the monster, Dad!" Kai shot back, anguish dripping off his words. "You are! You left me!" The flames died abruptly, leaving only echoes of energy in the air. But the stunned silence that followed was worse than any chaos. Ethan felt every pair of eyes boring into him. The cracks deepened, revealing the jagged edges of his life he had tried so hard to maintain. "Leave us!" he commanded, his voice lacking conviction. But fear rippled through the crowd, eroding Ethan's authority. The glitz of his empire felt like a ghost now. Nothing but tainted whispers in the wind. A sharp burst shattered the moment. A gunshot rang out, piercing the thick tension. Time froze. Guy turned, eyes wide as a bullet whizzed past them. The world erupted into chaos. Screams, chaos, despair, all blended into a cacophony that roared through the streets. Ethan froze, lost, with time sidestepping around them. All thoughts of success and power evaporated into smoke. He was not just Ethan Morgan anymore. He was a father again, faced with the danger of a world that had turned on him. And in that chilling instant, the past he thought buried jolted back to life. Secrets awakening in the shadows, secrets that could destroy him. He looked beside him, Kai, breathing heavily, eyes fixed on some unseen threat. "Do you see now?" Kai gasped. "This isn't what you think it is." With those words, the ground beneath them shifted, and Ethan knew, without a doubt, that nothing was what it seemed. The future, twisted and tangled, lay ahead, dark and uncertain. Ethan's thoughts whirled like leaves caught in a storm, unsettled and chaotic. All this time, he had chased success, climbed the highest peaks, but now the child he thought lost stood before him, with secrets, shadows, and danger simmering just beneath the surface. He wanted to reach out, to understand, but fear rooted him in place. "Die! Wait!" Ethan finally managed, desperation erupting from deep within. The boy, his son, hesitated but didn't turn back. The city pulsated around them, but all he could focus on was the trembling in Kai's hands. "No, you don't understand," Kai whispered, glancing at the churning crowd. "It's not safe here." "Not safe?" Ethan's heart raced. "Kai, what happened? Where have you been all these years?" But just as he feared an answer, a loud crash split the noise, followed by a round of gasps. A group of men burst through the crowd, dressed in dark suits. They were here for Ethan. "Intruders!" a voice shouted. Panic rippled through the throng. People scattered like leaves in the wind. Ethan grabbed Kai's arm, pulling him closer. "We need to leave!" He could feel the adrenaline coursing through him, each rapid heartbeat echoing the urgency in the air. "No, it's too late!" Kai declared, pulling back. His eyes glinted, sharper than before. "You have to listen to me!" Suddenly, his son's hands ignited in flames. Bright, vivid, and terrifying. Feet shuffled back, voices raised in horror. Ethan watched, stunned, as the street illuminated with an otherworldly glow that twisted around Kai's fingers like living things. "Why can't you just trust me?" Kai yelled. But the fire danced dangerously close, casting shadows on their faces, igniting the despair and confusion in Ethan's heart. "He's a freak!" someone yelled from the crowd, recoiling in fear. A low murmur of judgment surged among spectators. Their whispers cut through the night air, full of disbelief and condemnation. "Stop!" Ethan shouted, panic bubbling up inside him. "Kai, you can't do this! You're not a monster! I'm not the monster, Dad!" Kai shot back, anguish dripping off his words. "You are! You left me!" The flames died abruptly, leaving only echoes of energy in the air. But the stunned silence that followed was worse than any chaos. Ethan felt every pair of eyes boring into him. The cracks deepened, revealing the jagged edges of his life he had tried so hard to maintain. "Leave us!" he commanded, his voice lacking conviction. But fear rippled through the crowd, eroding Ethan's authority. The glitz of his empire felt like a ghost now, nothing but tainted whispers in the wind. A sharp burst shattered the moment. A gunshot rang out, piercing the thick tension. Time froze. Kai turned, eyes wide, as a bullet whizzed past them. The world erupted into chaos. Screams, chaos, despair, all blended into a cacophony that roared through the streets. Ethan froze, lost, with time sidestepping around them. All thoughts of success and power evaporated into smoke. He was not just Ethan Morgan anymore. He was a father again, faced with the danger of a world that had turned on him. And in that chilling instant, the past he fought buried jolted back to life. Secrets awakening in the shadows. Secrets that could destroy him. He looked beside him, Kai, breathing heavily, eyes fixed on some unseen threat. "Do you see now?" Kai gasped. "This isn't what you think it is." With those words, the ground beneath them shifted, and Ethan knew, without a doubt, that nothing was what it seemed. Just then, the young woman who had earlier warned them pushed through the crowd, panic-stricken, eyes wide. "It's happening! You can't let it happen!" Ethan squinted, trying to make sense of her words, when without warning, a deafening crack echoed, sending tremors through the pavement. A bright light erupted from the sky, blinding everyone. Ethan shielded his eyes, stumbling back. Instinct told him to protect Kai, but the moment he opened his eyes, he froze. The young woman stood at the center of the chaos, her face morphing into something unrecognizable, a twisted blend of fury and despair. "You don't understand, Ethan," she screamed, voice now sharp like glass. "It was never about Kai. It's about you." Ethan's heart raced. "What do you mean?" You are the reason this is all happening. Your past. You're connected to them." The crowd gasped, shifting uneasily, murmur swirling like a storm. Before Ethan could protest, she lunged forward, grabbing Kai by the shoulders. "You need to break it. You have to destroy the legacy." Her eyes blazed with an intensity that sent chills down Ethan's spine. "Break what?" Kai shouted, confusion mixing with fear. The woman's eyes flickered, revealing something deeper, darker, a bond he couldn't fathom. "The source of your powers? It comes from him. You don't have to inherit this." Ethan's world turned upside down. "What are you talking about? I didn't give him anything." But before he could finish, the realization hit him like a bolt of lightning. Memories flooded back, half-formed images from his past, laughter mixed with something sinister. The boy he'd forgotten, experiments long buried, whispers of a truth that clawed back to the surface. As the words settled like dust, an explosive sound erupted overhead. A blinding flash enveloped the scene. Shadows swirling like a tempest. The last thing Ethan saw was Kai's face contorted in fear, the young woman's frenzied gaze piercing the dark, and everything, his world, his past, his son, disappearing in chaos. And in that terrifying moment, he knew the truth wouldn't just shatter their lives. It would rip everything apart, leaving nothing but questions and a chilling sense of dread. Ethan felt the brightness pulse like a heartbeat, consuming everything in its path. Panic surged through him, gripping him. The woman's words echoed in his mind. His past, his future, tangled in a web of secrets. "Kai!" he called out, but the light swallowed his voice. And just as quickly as it had risen, the blinding glow vanished. The world snapped into focus, leaving Ethan in a shock-filled silence. The crowd had disappeared. The sounds of sirens and cries faded to whispers, leaving an eerie calm. Ethan blinked, scanning the area. Where was everyone? Where was the chaos? And then he noticed it. Kai, standing motionless. The young woman, barely a breath away. Both of them surrounded by a shimmering barrier that flickered weakly. But something else was different. Ethan's heart raced as he lay eyes on Kai. The flicker that had once been fire in his son's hands was gone. Instead, a light flickered within him, pulsing softly like a steady echo of a dying star. Kai's expression had transformed from fright to a blank stare, his eyes glazed over. "What did you do?" Ethan whispered, a chill creeping down his spine. He stepped forward, but the barrier sparked angrily, forcing him back. A flash of something unearthly coursed around the edges, an electric charge that left him breathless. And then she screamed. The young woman stumbled back, her hands instinctively raising against the light as if it burned. "No, this can't happen!" Her voice rose, trembling with fear. "You don't understand what you're tapping into. It'll consume everything." Ethan's heart dropped. "Oh, what are you talking about?" But before she could respond, the ground shook violently. A low rumble echoed from below, growing louder, an ominous growl that rattled the street beneath their feet. Ethan felt its raw power surge through him, and with every pulse, the air thickened. And then, an earth-shattering crack split the night. The concrete exploded. A void opened up. A dark chasm that swallowed any glimmers of hope in an instant. People began to pour in from the edges, figures cloaked in shadows, their intent cloaked in silence. "Kai, get back!" Ethan shouted, his heart racing, adrenaline flooding his veins. A deep, instinctual warning screamed inside him, the kind that drives people to fight or flee. But Kai stood frozen. "I can feel them," he murmured. "They're calling to me." "No!" Ethan lunged forward, desperately trying to pull him away. But it was too late. Kai's gaze shifted, a transformation washing over his face. "You have to let me go, Dad. This is bigger than you and me." Ethan's breath hitched. "What do you mean?" "You're my son. We can face this together." Panic and desperation tumbled from him like stones, and then it happened. A vile, screeching sound erupted around them. A wave of energy shot forth, tangible, and fury-filled. In that split second, the shadows swarmed Kai, merging with him like ink through water. The light surrounding him flickered and pulsed, twisting into something twisted, alien. No! Ethan still lunged, but the shadows enveloped Kai completely. For a moment, Ethan could only see darkness, and then silence. Your son is gone. A whispered voice crept from the shadows, familiar, yet foreign. Ethan's heart dropped, recognition flooding him. The voice of his mother. "Mom?" he gasped, the word like venom on his tongue. Out of the void, she materialized, a ghost from his past, her presence haunting yet nearly tangible. You were never supposed to find him, Ethan. This was never your choice. "What have you done?" he choked out. The realization hit him like a punch. You knew he was alive all these years. The shadows shifted again, merging into a figure standing tall beside the void. Kai's form trembled, a sinister energy radiating off him, and Ethan's pulse quickened with dread. "Mom?" Guy echoed, but in his voice there was a chill, a shifting darkness. The world around him faltered, disorientation crashing into him head-on, and in an instant, the truth unraveled like a tapestry being torn apart. How well did he really know his family? "Everything is about to change," his mother whispered. "You've awakened what was meant to stay hidden, and now the world as you know it will fall." Ethan fought for footing in the chaos, desperately wanting to grasp the last remnants of a reality that felt real only moments ago. Questions tore through him like wild animals. "We can fix this," he shouted. But the shadows surged, echoing a laughter that sent shivers down his spine. "Can you?" she murmured, the darkness tightening around Kai. "Or is it too late?" In that soul-chilling moment, Ethan realized nothing would ever be as it seemed. And within that chaos, an unsettling truth lurked, waiting to be uncovered, as their world began to unfold into something far darker than he ever imagined. Ethan's heart raced as shadows twisted, wrapping around Kai. The darkness pulsed, swirling like a storm ready to strike. His son's face, once familiar, now held a dangerous edge. "You have to break this cycle!" the young woman cried out, her voice cutting through the tension. "Don't let him take you!" "You think you can stop me?" Kai's voice echoed, layered with unyielding power. Yet a flicker of the boy Ethan loved shone through. "You don't understand who I am." The world trembled, and Ethan could only watch as the flickering shadows danced dangerously close to Kai. "Run!" he shouted, desperation clawing at his throat. But Kai remained firmly rooted in place, battling something deeper and darker than any father could grasp. "Don't fight it," the woman pleaded, energy crackling around her. "You're stronger than this. We can defeat it together." "No, I need to embrace it," Kai shouted back, but in his eyes, Ethan saw fear laced with a longing for connection, for purpose. It was then that everything went silent. The world held its breath, the air thick and suffocating. Ethan could feel the piercing eyes of those in the shadows, the weight of judgment pressing down on him like a vice. "Kai, listen to me." Ethan's voice broke through the tension. "You are my son. You are not their weapon. You can choose." Suddenly, Kai's expression flickered. For a heartbeat, He seemed to wrestle with the darkness pulling at his soul. "Dad!" His voice trembled, fear and love intertwined in that one word. And in that moment, Ethan stepped forward, his heart pounding. "I believe in you!" Tears stung his eyes, the lump in his throat choking back every guilt-ridden confession he had wanted to share. "You can be more than this." The shadows hesitated, the energy wavering as if unsure about their grip. Kai's hands glowed brighter, illuminating the way. "I don't want to be alone!" His voice rang clear, resonant with conviction. Then everything exploded. A blinding light surged from Kai, washing over them like a tidal wave. The shadows shrieked, retreating momentarily, swirling around like wisps of smoke. Ethan closed his eyes, shielding against the dazzling brilliance. The world around him shifted, contorting, reshaping. And then, everything stopped. When Ethan opened his eyes, he found himself standing in an empty void. No city, no chaos, just quiet. A familiar warmth enveloped him, and at its center was Kai, the shadows fading into nothingness. "Dad?" Kai's voice wavered, and Ethan rushed forward, pulling him into an embrace. "I thought I lost you," Ethan said, holding him tight. But the words choked him. "You never lost me." Kai's voice was soft, steady. "I had to find my way back." The warmth flooded Ethan's heart, a light blooming where darkness had once lingered. "Together?" he asked. "Together," Kai echoed, a smile breaking through the uncertainty. And just like that, they were back on the street, surrounded by a stunned crowd. The tension had lifted, curiosity softening the faces once filled with fear. The woman stood nearby, relief flooding her features. "You did it," she murmured, awe in her voice. "We all did. You fought the shadows within." Ethan looked around, taking in the swirling world that had faded. The chaos felt distant now, like a nightmare that had finally ended. But is it truly over? The question hung in the air. In a heartbeat, everything felt possible. A future without the weight of shadows loomed ahead. It wouldn't be easy. They had battles to face, truths to uncover, but they would do it together. As they walked forward, heartbeats aligning, Ethan felt hope again. It wasn't the grand empire he had known, but with Kai by his side, it felt like a different kind of victory. "Stay close," Ethan urged, and with that, they stepped into a new dawn, leaving the darkness behind. You've made it to the end of this captivating journey, but don't let these powerful stories disappear into the void. You have to subscribe now so you don't miss the next thrilling installment. Smash that like button right away to show your support and help the algorithm spread these tales. And flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories. What do you think awaits Ethan and Kai next? Your engagement truly matters. Don't wait even a second longer. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this ending. Only true fans understand the importance of keeping this community alive. Let's keep the stories flowing.